Terrific. So we have completed the roll call obligation. Thank you, Carol, for keeping me on track.
Yep.
And then I will call the meeting officially to order. First item on the agenda is approving the agenda. And I wanted, if it's appropriate, Carol, to amend item 5, because that concerns the removal of Nubia Rodriguez. She resigned. I received an email from her earlier today resigning. So
Item 4, you mean?
I'm sorry.
Is it item 4?
5.
Item 5.
Oh.
Do you have this? Is this meeting? Oh, you may not have the latest. Well, then let's share this.
Right.
Yes, so we could amend that then to accepting her or acknowledging her resignation.
Was she the parent rep?
Yeah, she was. She just her life got too complicated for her, unfortunately. Yeah, so I will make a motion then to amend item 5 on the agenda from
Can I see the agenda?
yeah, to accept Nubia Rodriguez's resignation.
Second.
Okay, we have a second from Karen. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. Any opposed? So the motion carries without any opposition. Any other comments or amendments or adjustments to the agenda? All right. Then do we need to vote to approve it then?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Karen. So all in favor, well, I therefore move to the approval of the agenda. Do we have a second? Okay, very good. All in favor of approving the agenda with the amendment, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Okay, Carol, it appears we have no nays, so the motion carries. The next item is to discuss and vote on the minutes of the last meeting, the May meeting. And have you all got a copy of the draft? Are there any comments, any corrections? All right. So in that case, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move that we approve. Second.
All right.
There we go.
There we go.
Kelly and Fred.
Kelly and Fred, yes. All in favor of approving the minutes? Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Okay, motion carries. All right. Item 4. Discuss and vote on adding Catherine Salveson to the governing council effective immediately. I believe that everyone, with the possible exception of, no, Fred met you.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the,
I did.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's,
We took
Yeah.
the tour together.
that's right. That's right. Very good. Do we have any discussion on, inviting her to the board? Any questions you want to ask?
I have some discussion. I'd say she's terrific.
Who's speaking?
That's
Fred.
Fred Harvey.
Thank you, Fred.
And if you ever have any desire to want to teach in our nursing program, let me know it. We'd love to
You
have
work
you.
in the nursing program?
So yeah, I'm the
Associate
associate dean
dean.
for that.
Okay.
So if you're
Yeah.
interested in doing some adjunct work or whatever, let me
Yeah.
know. And we,
Thank you. That's very
Easy.
kind.
Yeah, so, well, very good. Do I have a motion then, unless there's any additional discussion or any questions for Catherine? So.
yeah, I'll move to
Add
hold
her.
the vote for Catherine Salveson.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Kelly and a second from Karen. We need a roll call vote for this,
We
right?
do.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, we have a motion and second to approve Catherine's joining the governing council effective immediately, which will mean that Catherine can vote on the rest of this agenda. So, Steve, how do you vote?
Aye.
Kelly,
I,
Lisa? Dorian is not here. Dayanira,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
and Fred.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously.
Terrific, terrific. Welcome. So, great. The next item is, as amended, is to accept the resignation of Nubia Rodriguez from the governing council. Do I have a motion?
didn't you just do that?
So moved. No, we just amended the agenda.
Oh, yeah.
So moved.
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
We have a motion from Karen. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second.
She beat me to it. Go for it.
All right, great. Well, we have three, so we'll acknowledge Catherine as seconding. So she has her
My first.
first action as official member of the board.
Right.
Wasn't she the parent rep or no?
She was, yes. She, just life interfered. She wasn't able to, complete the paperwork and wasn't able to attend most of the meetings. So, it was,
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious, just making sure.
yeah, that's who she was. Yeah. And she would have been great, she was bilingual and she has a student or two here and has a, strong community orientation, but it's probably because she's so strongly community oriented that she doesn't have time for the work that's required here. So in any event,
I have a
All right.
question.
yes.
So how is the parent rep determined? And is it a term? Is it appointed? Does it come from this? How does that happen?
Very good question. Did everybody else hear Catherine's question?
No.
She's wondering how the parent rep is selected and added to the board. This year, we formed a board action, formed the parent family community committee. I can never remember what the two C's are, but in any event, we can't call it a PTA because that it turns out is a trademark designation. So we came up with another acronym, and the parent organization selected her or nominated
This is a
her.
parent organization and peer to the board.
Well,
To
this
the
is
council.
the school's parent. It's for the parents of children attending the school. We have no
The whole
authority
TMP
over.
school.
That's correct.
Okay.
We have no authority over that committee
Right.
other than to plant the seed and, nurture
So
it.
the
and
parents
forth.
of the kids in the TMP selected.
Selected her to be the
Got
representative,
it.
but they nominated her. We voted her onto the board.
Okay.
And typically that's the term is the academic year.
Oh, okay.
Now, she joined in February, I think it was. So
Sure.
she, if she was going to continue to be a parent next year, it's my belief she could have continued her term through next year as well. Yeah.
So will they determine her replacement?
I hope so.
Yeah, okay. So
Yeah, it's
that's
their
the
duty.
process.
It's their duty.
Steve, I know somebody who might be interested.
Very good.
Yeah, and she also she teaches also, so she'd be good because she'd have both.
Well, does she teach here?
No, she's
Oh.
not there, but she's at another school
Okay,
in Santa Fe. So she'd have that perspective,
good.
and she's done administration stuff before too.
Well, that's terrific. Well, Mia Rue. Mia Rue is the president of the Parents Association.
Uh-huh.
You
I don't
might, send your suggestion to her
Okay.
and copy whomever you want. So, okay, so yeah, I'm just trying to remember where we are here now then. So we're still talking about accepting the
Right.
resignation. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or should we move on to a vote? All in favor of accepting her resignation, please say aye.
Aye.
I,
Hi.
All opposed, say nay. Carol, it appears to pass unanimously.
Okay, thank you.
Now, the next item is electing governing council officers for fiscal 25. Let's talk a little bit about the way this works. There are 4 officers. There's a president, vice president, Kelly's vice president, treasurer, that's Lisa Schwade. Raise your hand, Lisa. And I'm just joking, really. She's out in Zoom land. And then Dorianis is not here. She's secretary. The term of office is 1 full year with the possibility of being reelected a second year. After the second year, you're supposed to come off, and not come off the board, but you know, somebody else needs to be elected to that position. Now, Kelly and I believe, are the only 2 that have served the full year. So we are both eligible for 1 more year. Everybody else joined during the year, which means they were filling a term, but were not in their own term, as it were. So that means that Lisa and Dorianis can be reelected, and that would be to their first full year. And then they could potentially be reelected next June to the second full year. So that's kind of the rules as they now exist. And yeah, at this point, we just need to decide who we want to have be our officers next year. And I would invite the non-officers to start the conversation on this, because obviously we, I guess, have a vested interest or something. I don't know.
Since they're all eligible, I recommend, if they are willing and desirous, that we reelect them all to term of office for the next academic year.
Do we know that all of these folks are willing
Yes, I checked with
to
Dorianis.
be elected?
Yeah,
to-
Lisa, I didn't ask you, but I assume you'd be willing to,
Yes, I would be also.
yeah, and Kelly?
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that a motion that you just made to accept this slate?
Given that information, I'd make the motion that we reelect the existing slate for another academic year.
I can second that.
All right, Catherine seconded. Now, Carol, do we need to vote 1 by 1? I think we probably do, no? Or not? Can we just
Elect the
I
slate.
think, I think you can.
do a
you can
batch?
elect by acclamation.
Okay,
Of the
which is,
slate.
Yeah, do that.
okay, well, then, does that require a motion and a second?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've got the motion and a second.
Who was the
So-
second, please?
Catherine,
Catherine, thank you.
and the motion was Fred.
Yes, got that.
All right, so how do we vote? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, all those opposed, say nay. Very good. Motion carries. All 4 officers are reelected for fiscal 25.
And can I just ask a question about the term? It
Yes,
seems really unrealistic to have board terms or officer terms that are 1 year. I mean, you just figure out what you're supposed to do and then
Exactly.
you've got to
A
run
year,
for
year.
election again.
very,
Um,
that's so truthful. I finally now feel like I kind of understand the job. And I'd
is-
like to, yes.
and
And,
is that
and
derived from state statutes or is that part of your bylaws?
I think that's in the bylaws.
I think it's state statute.
Well, Dan, are you on the call?
Term?
Dan Hill? I know he wasn't feeling
You
well.
never know.
Oh, Dan, you are?
I'm here.
Can
Um,
you answer the question? Is it statute that requires 1 year terms?
The Charter Schools Act is silent on officers. So it would be, I haven't reviewed your bylaws, but I'm assuming it's something that's coming out of your bylaws.
Yes.
So.
All right,
we
and
could-
Karen is gonna head up the bylaws committee anyway.
Really?
So that would be an item to look at on a,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think you definitely want to look at.
Yeah. Yeah.
A longer term.
yeah, there's a lot of details we need to look at. Thank you for that, Dan. I know you're not feeling great. Drink lots of water. Oh, and I guess Fred, yeah, you and Fred are both trying to drink water and fight off the viruses.
Yeah, I'm actually standing in the line at the pharmacy right now, so I'm sorry for the, if there's noise.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah, very good. So item 7 is now up. That's my report. You've seen, the written report was sent out. I'm not gonna read everything. I did want to talk about a couple of things though. And probably the most important thing at least in my mind, is the board retreat. And we did one of these last year. And it was, I think, quite useful. It helped us set goals for the year and get, things in motion. I think we can run a board retreat this summer that's even tighter and more productive. We have a number of experts who've already volunteered to provide some training. And that includes Mr. Harburg, who's, as you know, is a consultant to Fortune 100 CEOs and so forth. So he's offered to do something, in the leadership and running an organization, vein. Sam Gonzalez, who is our charter renewal consultant, and Dan Hill are both principals at DMH, and they've offered to do some training in their respective areas of expertise. And finally, Axiom has offered some fiscal training, which will be valuable. So that would be part of the retreat, some training, maybe 4 out of the 7 or 8 hours would be
What is
trained.
DMH?
Dan something Hill. What's your middle name? Manuel?
His name is Matthew, but that's just the name of the law firm, DMH Law LLC.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, and then the other thing, and the second part is doing the strategic planning for the year. What are our goals? And I would hope that out of that, we would identify areas of interest among the different board members and would form some committees and set schedules for committee work. Yeah, that's pretty much my conception of it. Now, let me just shut up for a second and, ask if there's any questions or feedback or ideas. And I will try to schedule, well, today I'd like to schedule for later in the month, a planning meeting. So we can spend an hour or 2, 3, whatever it takes, some Saturday maybe to, with beers in hand or coffees in hand or whatever, to plan the agenda.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So was the work that you did last round on the strategic plan, is that available? Because you might, maybe want to build on it as opposed to go back to square one and see
Yeah.
what actually happened. And if it didn't, why didn't it?
Right,
And how
right.
can that
Absolutely.
be
Very good suggestion. Very good
Um,
suggestion.
mitigated?
Yeah, yeah. And I think there are things that I had wanted to do bylaws and policy and planning document. We're still doing that. And part of it is that a lot of stuff happened this academic year. Carla and I have been in the trenches all year trying to put out fires and get the train back on track and all that kind of thing. And that's part of what happened. So yes, we would certainly want to,
Take a look.
consider that. Yeah,
Did-
absolutely.
Did you create a strategic plan?
Do you have?
I don't think we had
Is it
anything in
written down
writing.
after
Kelly,
the
we didn't put
retreat?
anything in
There's a
writing,
bunch of
no,
notes.
notes and so forth. So that might be
A good
a
idea.
good idea to do this time around. Yeah, have somebody
Yeah,
who's
do you
gonna.
have those notes?
We do, I don't know how useful they'll be.
I mean,
They are-
personal notes, yeah.
They're a remnant of
Yeah.
So-
your last effort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was a consultant for over 20 years and at Accenture and IBM, and I have a lot of experience doing strategic planning and modernization type programs. working with, Fortune 100, Fortune 500 and government clients. So at the C-suite as well. So if that's something that we need to do internally, I can try to carve out some time to do
Yeah.
it if somebody will work with me on it.
Sure. Well, I think maybe it sounds like you want to be part of the planning committee. And so.
Yes, but hopefully it's more efficient than what we did before.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I
Well,
mean?
I want to have a concrete plan with target dates. That's one thing. We didn't set target dates. And
And deliverables and
yeah, so that was one shortcoming. So, question to all of,
I have
yeah.
another,
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, Karen.
really a comment. My experience is that it's hard to get board members together during the summer. Is
Mhm.
July the best time to have your
Well,
board?
that was gonna be
meeting?
my next question. When I would like to do it this summer simply because we're unfortunately on the school's calendar here. With July and, I mean, it should be in the first 2 months, I think, of our year.
I mean, Axiom can't do it in July, so.
And actually, I can't do it in July, so that's kind of pushing it into
That's part of it,
August.
is July's a hard month for lots of people.
Yeah, I mean, but you wouldn't have Axiom then if you did it in July.
Well, it would be, we got two different answers, but I think it would be better for them if we didn't try to do it in July. So that pushes us to August.
But I think if you could get it into the fall and then if you do it every year,
Mhm.
then
Yeah,
and
on the
you write
schedule.
down what your plan is and
Okay.
when you're supposed to have done it.
Well, that would give us 9 months to execute the plan. Is that enough time?
I don't know what the plan is.
Yeah, well, that's true. We were
It
giving
sounds
up
like
several
we
months.
Had some objectives in terms of reviewing policies and bylaws and.
Yeah.
Rumors of a handbook. The work on those can continue
Right.
before this retreat.
Yes.
The retreat is not a be all end all. It's.
No, that's a good point.
You can still get the work of the board done, and in fact, maybe a good idea to try to get some drafts ready to bring to the retreat. So that people would have a chance to, chew on it together and
Mhm.
come to some agreements.
Yeah, we would need to form committees. Now, I've already asked Karen if she would volunteer to head up the bylaws committee. You just heard me do that earlier.
Just your request.
So,
And we have to keep it to 4 people?
that's a good,
Under
actually, Karen raises a
Nobody
very
heard me.
important point. What is the quorum? I think, where are we now, Carol? Are we at 8? No, we just lost Nubia. We added, so we added Karen, Fred, and Catherine in the last 2 months.
Are you asking what the current quorum number is?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
We have 8 voting members now that Nubia
Fine.
has resigned, so we need 5 for a quorum.
Okay, so 4
So
or
a
fewer,
4-person committee would work.
4-person committee would work. Yeah, that's great. That's great.
I recall something different. That it's not a quorum. It's,
Under the Open Meetings Act?
Yeah,
It's a
Open
quorum.
Meeting Act is pretty clear about
It's a
that.
quorum.
I thought it was less than a quorum.
No.
They always were discouraging people from having discussion. I remember when I formed the school, there was something about they didn't want more than 2. They didn't want board members talking business
Right,
like in the grocery store.
that's the rolling quorum problem. So we have a total of 8.
So, I
voting-
mean, so they discouraged any,
Yeah, but let's get clear on the numbers, John.
For
We
the
have 8,
committee.
we
It's a
have,
committee we're working on.
right, so we have a total of 8 voting members. We do not have a quorum until we have 5 people in the same room together talking about board business.
But do you have to have a quorum to do a committee?
No,
No, it's the
no.
opposite.
So
You're actually all in
less
agreement
than
with each other.
5,
Oh, she says.
which
We
is,
can move
that's
on now.
exactly right. I'm trying to clarify that.
Catherine, it's because of the Open Meetings
Yeah,
Act.
exactly. I
so
understand
we're
that.
trying
Yeah,
to-
yeah.
Yeah, so a committee can have 4 board members on it without forming a rolling quorum.
Right.
Yeah, which is beautiful. That's a great number. You know, it's when we were down to 2 or 3 that
Mhm.
it was hard to really do
Yeah.
effective committee work. Yeah, So-
Steve, I wanted to just some food for thought. Maybe for future years, maybe consider having the board retreat in June when things, from the school year are fresh and to give us time to plan before school starts.
Our charter renewal consultant is nodding her head no.
No, not this year. I'm saying
No,
for future
no,
years.
I understand that. I understand that. I don't know that it has to do with the charter renewal
Yeah, I think
process.
right now the charter
per se.
renewal is our priority, so looking, I'm just.
No,
Yeah.
not this year. I'm just
No, I
saying.
know that. I'm just,
Yeah.
just talking about
Just as
talking.
food for thought, June is like a silent creeper for schools.
Okay,
It is one of those months that you think is calm, and it just so happens to be probably one of the most insane because it's the end of the fiscal year.
okay.
So it's a
Everybody is
really challenging
completely-
month.
So,
Okay.
you got that? That was Sam Gonzalez, Carol, who, offered her sage advice.
Okay. And that was June is not a good month.
June is not a good month
Not
because
in-
it's
Not in schools.
in schools, because it's the final month of the fiscal year
Oh,
and
yeah.
a lot of stuff has to happen.
Yeah, it's off.
So then maybe
Just
we
cancel
shoot for
June.
September.
Fall is a nice time.
Sep-
Beautiful.
I think earlier than that, we can sort out, who's
Who's on
which
what committee.
committee,
I
and they
think we
could
have to
meet,
do
they
that.
could meet
Just a
at their own leisure.
Yeah, so then maybe July, we can, form committees.
Mhm.
And then we'll have the retreat then in September.
Yeah.
So that gives us a little bit more time to plan. Let me ask all of you then to,
I don't know what's happening.
I recommend we do it on a Saturday. So look at your calendars for September and see what Saturday would or would not work. And just, I think I'll use Calendly again, which you
Yeah.
turned me on to.
Yeah,
And we'll vote. It's this tool you can send out and you query. You can, I said, yeah, that's right.
So do you know what the committees are that you want to populate and have?
Fair question. We have standing committees, fiscal committee or finance committee. And the audit committee are standing committees, and those may be by statute. I don't remember.
Yeah,
But they are
important.
and required. And then I think the bylaws and policies and procedures committee. So we start with the bylaws and then we build, bylaws, we review the bylaws because they're 14 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we have learned things since then. And there may have been changes to statutes that flow to the bylaws that we need to be aware of and need to incorporate. Dan, well, okay, we'll come to Dan again in a minute. So that would be an important committee. We probably want to form a charter renewal committee to provide whatever support the board needs to, during summer and autumn, to the renewal process.
it's gonna be pretty quick. I mean, anyway, you should listen to her.
Yeah, so you're gonna talk to us about
Yeah,
that, so we
take
can.
us right through the-
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, so
We may not need a
we'll
committee.
cover that. So those are
The
two
whole board be
committees
aware of
that,
the Process.
that, I've been thinking about. Maybe you got any other ideas that are about?
So there are two more that, and I'm sorry to take up so much airtime, but I got so many questions.
Sure,
So this is Catherine, and so I understand that you are putting together a handbook.
yeah, oh,
Could
thank you,
use,
yeah.
And then the final one that I
Yes.
heard was being attended to was your website. So are those
That website could be,
two,
well,
task
do
groups?
we want that to be part of the technology? I think there should be a board presence and involvement, and maybe
can
we
be
call it a
involved in any
board
of these.
committee or technology.
We won't have a lot of committees like we did last year in terms of faculty, but there is a technology committee and the board can be present on that.
And what is their charge?
Of a technology committee, the charge is that a committee will have a vision for the school technologically for this year, and 3 years, and 5 years. And that the purchases that we make and the types of technologies that we employ will be part of a vision as part
So
of.
you just brought a bunch of,
Chromebooks, yeah.
Chromebook, so trying to move from an older way of being, which is the technology person makes that decision and then we discuss it. And so there is a process. And then we have assistive technology where we get special education involved and, but technology is well beyond computers, of course, as we know, and what kind of technologies are we even talking about? So my preference in the school setting is that the school set a vision about how we're gonna be and then the decisions are made within that context. Because wasn't set up at this school, then it, unfortunately, then people like myself and others can just say, well, let's do this thing, or let's do this thing. And because you have to do something, so it's not ideal because you want to do it in the context. So Noah's been really busy, but he's sold on it, and we look at that, and then so that would be ideal, is to look at that so the decisions that we make fit into an overall vision.
so you're talking about possibly either a part of the strategic plan that would be for technologies, goals,
I mean, strategic plans should very well and look at technologies and I mean, I think getting a strategic plan for a school is important and it looks great on paper, but it's not like we haven't been strategically planning and leading the school this year. And so that's been tracked, and the board can look at I think it's a larger discussion about what was even thought of when you first said you
Well,
wanted to do a strategic plan, because,
Get clarification from, are you
Yeah.
asking about the board's plan?
yeah,
Or
exactly.
about the strategic plan for the school?
well, we were
Is-
going back upstream, we were talking about if we were gonna put some skin in the game in committee work.
Yeah,
Where was the skin needed and what were the committees that
That's-
needed?
right, and that's a little different. We had a
Yeah.
strategic planning process
For the
for the
school.
school as a whole last
Okay.
year. I just wanted to make
Yeah,
the
yeah.
distinction clear, so
So what,
Yeah.
there would be.
They're connected if you want.
in a
They can
way.
be
but-
connected, yeah.
but-
And I think the retreat can maybe sort some of those things out where board
Yeah.
members can sit and define these terms and talk about the role of the board, the role of administration, the role of what kind of school you want to create, and all of that's connected. I think the priority is this charter renewal because it's a moot point if we're not renewed. So I'm
Sure,
not saying that's even a possibility or not, but that's
yeah,
something
no, that's
I
high
would like to
priority.
make the center of maybe our energy.
Yeah, and the board wants to
Strategic
support.
Planning will be tied to what happens in your
We have to
contract.
negotiate a contract and the
Negotiations.
contract, I mean, so it's not like there hasn't been strategic thinking. Because there has to be, or else we're just all sitting around waiting for somebody to do, I mean,
Yeah.
you say, well, what, because there's mission goals, there's things we're being held accountable to that were decided by somebody, and those are now being changed because they don't make sense.
Okay. Well, let's circle, go ahead, Karen, I'm sorry.
Do you have a strategic plan for the school that's different than the board's plan? I mean, what are you planning to do at this retreat? It's
We-
a board retreat, right? So
Right,
you're
we
looking-
wanna identify actions that we want the board to take,
So
and we
that-
wanna set our calendar for the year and
And so you're talking strategic planning
for the
limited
board.
to the board.
That's exactly
You're
right.
not talking about the larger
No,
overall plan for the,
No.
the 5-year plan.
we went through that last year and we hired an outside consultant and it wasn't as successful as we would have liked. So
So you're talking about a smaller piece.
I'm
which is
talking a
just-
smaller piece.
I don't mean just to
No,
put it down, but it's only strategic planning for
board,
at the board level,
at the board level.
which would really be a governance
Yes,
issue as opposed to a big school issue, right?
correct. Correct. That's what we're talking about.
And that there would be alignment between
With
the board's
one would
plan
hope
and the
that-
school's plan, such that whatever the board is doing is in service to the success of the school.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think most of the overlap will be in the policy arena and the documentation of policy. You brought up the board handbook. That will be, in my mind anyway, the responsibility of the board bylaw/policy procedure committee.
Okay.
So Dorianis has been working on that. I mean, we started with I myself starting out last year, encountered all these things. I didn't know what the hell to do, pardon my language, but so I started a table of contents with some notes, and then I handed that off to her. She was very generous and in accepting that heavy task. So she's been working on that, but additional work needs to be done. And let me at this point do what she asked me to do, which was to just give you all a heads up. She's going to put out the draft. She's going to email it to all the board members tonight. She on Thursday will be, she did already? Okay.
No, she's going to, she's presenting it to the charter.
She's presenting it Thursday at the charter conference. So if you could find a few minutes to, well, it's a pretty long document, but scan it, offer suggestions before Thursday, obviously, so she can.
Has the board gotten it?
I think
it
I
came about
just
4
heard that
o'clock.
4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
I haven't been in my email, so I don't know.
So do we know when she's presenting it?
Thursday sometime. I don't know what time during the day.
Thursday?
Friday.
Friday, they
Yeah.
changed it to
Is it
Friday.
Thursday?
They changed her to
or
Friday?
Okay.
They changed it to
Oh,
Friday.
that's
Do you know
terrific.
what time on
I can look it up for you.
Oh, that's terrific.
Does the board need to approve it before it's presented at a conference?
I don't think so. It's a work in
Draft.
progress. It's a work in
She's
progress.
presenting, I'm believing she's presenting it as a process. She's not like formally presenting our handbook.
No,
Yeah.
it's not.
No,
finished
she's
yet.
bringing up the concept of a handbook for board because it's a networking conference.
An
and I-
onboarding handbook.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. An onboarding handbook for board members. And I think she's also going to solicit input, feedback from
Oh, good.
the participants.
Yeah.
She plans it, she's got an hour and 20 minutes or something, fairly long period of time. And had been talking about breaking up into small work groups, as part of that time,
Session is at 9 a.m., 9 to 10:25,
9 to 10.
Friday, June 14th.
Okay,
What time is yours, John? Do you know?
8:30, starting at 8:30.
So they overlap on Friday.
Well, first starts at 9, goes to 10:25.
Yours
Yours starts at
8:30.
8:30. I think there's an overlap.
So,
yeah, but it'd be odd that they have different start times like that. You'd think that they would have consistent.
Well, they have tracks usually at these.
Yeah. Anyway,
I'm only doing a small thing with Tina,
oh, I see.
it's just part of,
So you're doing the service learning one? Is that what you did?
Well, maybe that starts at 8 and you come on at 8:30.
who knows?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't- I'm
yeah,
so
all right.
it's-
Well,
It's.
I just think it might be of benefit to hear what she presents and participate.
Oh,
in the
totally.
Process.
Oh, totally.
To be able to
Oh,
bring that
absolutely,
back
yeah,
to Karen's committee
Absolutely.
and have that as input.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, so let me just kind of circle back here to the agenda. The board retreat then we'll shoot for a date in September, a Saturday in September. I'll put out a request for, dates. And we'll make a decision, and then we will form a planning committee. I guess that's one more committee. Second point that we come up with in this discussion is that we have a series of committees that we need to form officially, and then people. And we'll try to do that in July at our first meeting. And what I have written down here is the Finance Committee, Audit Committee, and then the Bylaws and Policy and Procedures Committee, Board Handbook Committee, they're the same committee. Participation probably on the Technology Committee that Noah heads up, our IT guy. And I know Lisa has expressed an interest in being on that committee. I would imagine that if we had several board members interested, they could all join.
It'll be an interesting experience.
So.
Yeah, and then
Is she on the call?
Lisa's on the call, yes.
So Lisa, you made an impressive statement earlier about your experience at pretty high level with mentoring strategic planning.
Yes,
Is there some aspect of that that might be helpful in terms of looking at our bylaws and policies and?
Yeah, my area of the area that I worked primarily in was technology. And, yeah, so that's really where a lot of my expertise from consulting was.
Yeah.
Yeah, was based in. So really, the process of doing it, interviewing, I've done a lot of them over the years. Yeah.
Sounds like that's your niche.
Yeah, and let me, Catherine, you may not know this, but Fred is
Yeah, I bet
highly,
Fred.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know, highly
Fred-
experienced
I think-
in.
I think if Fred wants to do the general one, I can, I'll help support the technology.
That'd be great.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, we're kind of putting the cart before the horse here a little bit,
Yeah.
because we're gonna have this discussion at the next meeting. Let me just complete my reading of the list here. Charter renewals, another committee. And then the retreat, I don't even know if we need to call it a committee, but retreat planning task force or something. Yeah. So be thinking, please, between now and the next meeting about which of those areas that you'd like to, participate in, and you don't have to just pick one. In fact, I think we're gonna need you to pick more than one. Just, So anyway,
Steve, have you thought about getting a outside person to facilitate the retreat?
well, we have some people who I think in our midst who could probably help with that. And that would be something that the planning committee would look at. I mean, it could be this is something that Fred, even though he's a board member, might be in a position to facilitate.
Is he with us?
But Fred, you are still on the call, right?
Yes, I am. I just got back
Yeah,
from facilitating a CEO and his management board all last week. It was intense, and maybe that's why I'm sick.
yeah. So we don't have to decide this right now, Fred, but I think it's a good thought to go about this in a more organized way than we did last year. Although we had a fair bit of training last year. Yeah, from PED. All right, so we will. I think at our next meeting is when we can identify the retreat planning committee or task force members and put a schedule together for that work. Let me continue here with my report here. This sense of the GC, regarding the website upgrade, there really is no argument or question here anymore, Carla, I don't think about this, but I did want to just, remind the GC that was another one of our tasks for this past year that we weren't able to finish. But I want to kind of get a sense of the level of support that the GC has for us upgrading our website. I mean, how many of you looked at the website, tried to find anything there? And it needs work.
I have had difficulty. They dropped my name. I'm not anymore listed as board member emeritus.
Yeah,
And they dropped my bio.
yeah. Well, that's all
Which
stuff.
I refer people all in the community all the time to look at that.
Yeah, and it's not there and they can't find it. Maybe it's there, but.
It's under founder.
I think there were some things that were made for the charter renewal, and so it needs to be put, some things need to be put in a different place. If I remember that, this is my suggestion, and take it for however you want to take it. The website is a thing, we're really aware of it. I brought it up from the very beginning when I was hired. I said, this is a priority and I'm going to take care of it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we hired somebody who wasn't very good. So it's water under the bridge, and they didn't follow through and they didn't do it. But we do have a website. It's a little bit better than it was. You can't find anything.
Yeah.
It's really difficult. Now, all I'm asking is what I put in my email is that I need to get from Axiom our actual numbers for our budget. Margaret and I will sit down and I will line by line create a budget for the school. I will then be able to say, we have X number of dollars for our website development.
Yeah.
And then we'll go through the procurement process. And you don't, it isn't purely by money. I think that Kimberly said that. You can choose somebody a little more expensive than somebody else if they're the ones that you want,
Yeah.
and we will get there. And so I think that the board, as to some extent, just hopefully will just let us do it.
Sure.
And because we know it. And so
Yeah.
discussing it is great, but one of the things that would be great is if the board meetings can be shorter. So,
Sure.
So you'd like the board to back off?
a little bit, and then focus on things, because we got a charter renewal coming up. And again, I don't want to be misunderstood. Nothing's gonna matter if we're not renewed. Like every single thing that we could be talking
Yeah.
about could be all about our renewal and what's going, and that's why Sam is here. I create a running record. I'm not gonna go into too much detail in my report because you can read it. And I'll answer questions, but yeah.
So
But
let's-
just saying,
Good. So, I guess we'll just leave you with one question. How
Yeah.
can the board help?
just by knowing that hopefully that you know from the start that I identified the website as being kind of a little bit of a train wreck, and it's been a huge priority. And we had a little bit of a setback. Well, we did 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and we're working on it. And so, and the most important thing, I think, is that it's legal and that it passes the charter
Yeah.
renewal. That's it, nothing else. And then, that's why I focused on lottery, enrollment, some other things that Sam has been instrumental in helping. And then we're gonna deal with aesthetics and photographs and making it more user-friendly and employ, social media links and all kinds of things that we could do to really make it come alive. But for now, we gotta get through this charter renewal. And
Good.
we are going early for the charter renewal, just so you know.
That's
I
amazing.
volunteered, let's get this over with.
Sure.
So that we're gonna get everything done in the summer. And I think I remember them saying the hearing was in November, and they may change that,
Yes.
but
Your hearing's gonna be in November.
in November, which means there might be a site visit, I'm thinking, in October, because the application itself is due September
I
1st.
think you're gonna be more like late September.
September, October, but we're ready for that, we're ready for it. And so the board, we'll find out from Sam what the role the board will play. I'm assuming
Yeah.
having you there for the hearing and,
Well, probably, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, maybe
So-
there's a site visit thing that having a board representation during,
We'll
I
need
don't,
board representation during the site
Yeah.
visit for a focus group.
yeah,
And then we will need, at the very least, the board chair present at the hearing.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Is the website as it stands at this precise moment okay for
It's
renewal
compliant.
purposes? It's
Mhm.
compliant.
That was the goal and we met it, and it's not
Okay.
pretty, but that was something
What
that
matters.
was not
Well,
true
It's
before.
not pretty, but it's compliant.
It's compliant and we're getting there.
Terrific.
Change that red color.
One final comment. Carol, this is as much for you as anybody else. I want to, going forward, not to have a scramble to get the agenda out at the last minute. So what I'd like to do is have the draft agenda go out a week earlier, so 2 weeks before the meeting. And then we have a week during which time we can collect agenda topics and reports. And then a week before the meeting, I'd like the pretty much final agenda and reports all to go out. So the board then has time to read those reports and study the agenda and so forth.
Yeah, and I'd like to request that we get the financial packets. Like getting it yesterday was really hard due to, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
so that helps if we can, get it the Friday before, then we have the
Finance,
Earlier,
attend the finance committee meet. The finance committee will be
meeting regularly.
regularly
it will
before
be-
the meeting.
Oh,
You're gonna
that's
have-
right. That's
you're gonna
right,
have-
sorry.
That's
Yeah,
right.
so
You're
I
gonna have,
think
that was
that's
why I said we're gonna do that, and you're gonna get everything you need early. You can talk about it and.
Very good.
Yeah,
So
it's helpful.
absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. So I'm done. Carla, you're on. You wanna? you got a
Sorry
couple-
to interrupt.
Yeah, who's this?
It's Sandy.
Oh. Oh, Sandy. Well, hello.
Yeah. Yeah, hi. I had to go to a meeting. But I just wanted to say that I went to the Panama trip and it was a lot of fun.
Uh-huh.
And I heard from many students that they want this to continue at TMP. And also I've been getting some emails and texts about concerns for the next school year. and they just have been letting me know that they want more of a person to really help them out, because I got many texts saying that their parents are also concerned for next year. And I have tried to let them know that it's not like a school thing, it's more of a state thing. But they're having a lot of concerns and I heard from multiple people that want more of a information on why. But I think for that I've been trying to help multiple people understand the reason. But yeah,
So why for what?
Calendar.
for the changes of the
calendar.
next year.
Oh, the challenges. Okay, the calendar, sorry.
Calendar,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay,
Didn't they just approve 175 days?
That was the state.
well, that's
Yeah,
the
the
Santa
public
Fe
schools.
Public School
And the-
District. We're 202 days.
For 202 days. We
Mhm.
extended the year
Right.
to increase our revenue so that we could that we could function next year.
Uh-huh.
And that letter went out to everybody and explained the context. And parents who had concerns emailed me directly, and I emailed them back, and their response was really favorable.
Yeah. I think it's
And
good.
so
Well, we approved it.
we approved it.
I'm gonna jump in just as a point
Sure.
of order. I think you should be careful that we're following the agenda.
Yep.
So I think it's great to have public comment or
Well,
concerns raised. It's just not on the agenda. And so I think you could run into a compliance issue.
Well,
Dan, okay.
Sandy is our student representative.
Yeah, and,
Right, you'd still need to notice on the agenda like a report or
okay,
something, which
yeah.
you could do going forward.
Oh,
I just
I'm
think
sorry.
you need to be careful.
Oh, there is a report of this, the student representative. It's on the back. It's number.
Right, and then just as a point of order, then, I mean, if we wanted to
Yeah.
move that item, we could with a vote.
Okay,
I think we're still on the report of the president, and so, you know, I think I'm not a form over substance person, but we do have to follow the Open Meetings Act. And so I
okay.
wanted
Correct.
Well, should we then have a vote at this point, Dan, to move Sandy up, given that she and frankly, I was surprised, Sandy, that you were able to attend, but and I'm glad you were. So can
seems like
we?
it's already been discussed, so unless there's more to add, I think
Okay,
we just move on, but
all right.
I just want to make sure we're conscious of that.
Very good, thank you.
You might want to accept her report.
Move to accept her report.
Sure. Well,
Unless she has more to say to finish.
or did you finish, Sandy? She's still on the call, or she dropped?
Oh,
She may have dropped.
She said she had to leave.
Yeah, she said she had to leave. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, then let's,
We
go
can
back.
still move to accept her report.
Sure. Do we want to, I mean, should we be moving to accept every report that's given, such as mine, and such as the head of school, and such as Sandy? We have not,
So my
historically done
advice
that.
on that would be if the reports are just verbal reports, you don't need, like, it's just a discussion item, you have the discussion, it's reflected in the minutes.
Okay,
If there's a written report that's separate from verbal reports, then you would actually vote to accept it.
okay. So,
That was-
so we just had a verbal report. However, I did present a written report, which we didn't go through verbally 100%. So I guess we have to then move to, well, I moved.
Move to accept the president's report.
I'll second.
All in favor, well, is there any discussion? No. Okay, all in favor of accepting the president's written report, say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, any opposed, say nay. Carol carries unanimously.
Steve, excuse me, who was the motion and the second on that?
Catherine was the motion, Kelly was the second.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so that takes us now to the report of the head of school. And Carla, you provided us with a written report, and I think there are just a couple items you wanted to discuss for voting purposes.
Well,
Do you
I
do you
keep
have
a-
the agenda here?
yeah, I have it. I have a a running record. I know there's a preference for me to make it into a document. My preference is to use the Google Doc because in fact, I just made some changes. I updated it so I can send a new one to you, Carol, but I think that you can look it over, and if you have any questions, it's all there. I just tried to recap the year. So you can take a look at that. We've had a lot of successes.
Yeah.
I would probably point, one of the things that is of most interest to me is evaluation of the head of school based on deliverables, because sometimes there's talks about keeping a head of school time-wise, which I think is overrated. You may want to just say, this is what I said I'd do, and I'm done.
Yeah.
So I looked those over, and most of the things I said I would do are done. You could take a look at that, which was kind of fun, thanks to the hard work of the faculty and committee work. So one of the things I realized when we had to go through the process of our early college high school designation, which is new, and that we didn't know about that until spring break, that we had to be reevaluated to even be designated as an early college. So the loss of that would be pretty rough. We couldn't exist again without that. So I had to submit a policy, an early college high school policy. And then I discovered we didn't have one. So I wrote one and submitted it, and I already submitted it because we needed to do it. And so I included it, hyperlinked it. It's been provided to the board. So I recommend you probably read it and decide whether you want it. The only other one, which was a little confusing to me, but I'm trying to figure it out, is the
Do we need to vote on that particular policy document?
I would think so, because it's a board policy that you're an early college high school. So I would guess you'd want to vote and accept
Okay,
it.
so why don't we do that?
Yeah,
at this
But you
point?
probably would want to, if you haven't read it.
So,
read it?
yeah, and I read it.
Is there a time frame within which it needs to be approved by
Yeah,
the
it needed
board?
to be approved by about 6 weeks ago.
So we should do it tonight.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, and I've read it. And in fact, I provided some feedback, wording and so forth.
There was also the behavior policy.
Well, let's
one,
let's take these one at a time.
Yeah, I think that's the
Anybody
feedback
needs a
that I
hard
thought I.
copy, they want to
got.
look at it really quick?
I'm good.
Good.
Yeah. So then on our, since
So
we've read
Cal,
it,
You want to make a motion?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll make the motion to approve the early college,
high school
high school.
policy document.
Second.
All right. All in favor of approving the early college high school policy document as, well, policy doc? Please say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Okay. All opposed, say nay. Carries, Carol, unanimously.
And who was the second, please?
Kelly.
And
Oh, I'm sorry, the other way around. Karen.
Karen was
Kelly
second.
Kelly moved and Karen second.
Thank you.
All right. Now the Black Education.
There's a Black Education Act, which is important, and we're trying to comply, and we took the Canvas course. I think everybody took it at the school. I have to double check that. But I think so. And then there needs to be a behavior policy, and I'm new to it. So I think what they're really looking for the Black Education Act is that there's not a Black Education Act policy. When I reread it, and they're more looking to make sure, which makes sense, that we have a policy in play, a behavior policy.
Right.
In other words, we're not discriminating against our African-American students in our behavior, So I looked at our behavior policy, and it wasn't as good as the one that I found in other places. Sam was helpful in providing me with other handbooks. So I adapted, I think it was mainly Taos Academy's Code of Conduct, which I liked better. And I could see clearly that they did adapt it to the Black education, because that's where they're racializing, that we would not racialize. So so you probably saw it. So I'm in the midst right now of finalizing our handbook, and I'm trying to take our old behavior conduct stuff and insert it in the newer one, which I think is better, which the board can look at. I don't know if you necessarily have to approve that right now, but I want to keep you abreast of that process, because the handbook is almost done.
Good.
So, and then I realized that Sue does not have to review the community handbook, because she already did. And all the changes that I'm making are not really legalistic changes.
Sure.
They're more wordsmithing, punctuation, readability, organization, that kind of thing. So I've already incorporated her concerns, which weren't very many, in our community handbook. It's just that it was hadn't been reviewed in 5 years.
Right.
So I'm updating
So-
it.
Tell me what the community handbook
It's the student
is.
community handbook. that-
Student handbook.
Yeah, it's a student handbook. It's our student community handbook.
Okay,
In addition to the human resource handbook,
Right.
which I started reviewing in August. And we just, Linda Staus and I, our HR consultant and I just finished it. That does have to be reviewed a second time by Sue, because that's benefits and grievance processes and
Legal.
it's all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So Sue said she would look at as long as we had enough money left in the purchase order that we didn't exceed 60,000. And if she doesn't, then I'm gonna ask Dan Hill if he will review that handbook, because I've got to get it by, it's gotta,
By
gotta, July 1st is the goal, because we gotta, because the faculty and staff sign off on that one. They read it, so-
Okay.
and so it's our new fiscal year.
Sure.
So it's been sent out last week to Sue, and I'm hoping she will review it, and then it's
and Sue is,
Sue Fox is our current
Legal counsel.
legal counsel for
Legal
this year.
Okay.
And Dan has also been is on contract as well to help, because we needed,
Sure.
we're such an important school. We needed 2 legal counsels
Yeah.
for the year. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, good. So it sounds like we should wait until you complete the student community handbook.
The handbooks are gonna come and then.
And then we'll
And then there'll be,
review and approve them.
and what you had said that you were gonna do, which I liked that idea, is that then by reviewing that handbook, will have accepted and reviewed all the policies that are in it.
Right,
And
exactly.
they shouldn't be, but I did rewrite the behavior one to meet
Sure.
the Black education,
Got
and
it.
I'll find out with Sam's help. I'm gonna upload that in the Black Education Act SharePoint.
Yeah, it's like the dash.
The dash, and I'll submit it, and hopefully that will move us along with the Black Education
Okay.
Act. We're not in non-compliance, we're just in the midst of approval.
Sure.
But I listed all of the things that have been approved. Our ed plan has been approved, our safe schools plan has been approved, our dash plan, I think is the state is a little behind on approving, but I think we're good on the dash plan. So we're compliant.
Good. So
Everything's in.
we don't need to take action on items B
No.
and C today, it sounds like, because that's gonna be
No.
probably next
No,
month.
I think that,
Yeah.
yeah, the main thing was the early college, high
Right.
school policy.
Which was not on there, but
No.
I hand wrote it, added
Yeah.
it. I should have mentioned that.
What?
Is there a copy of the behavior?
The final item,
My forms and other important, or my head of school report is hyperlinked.
Carla, the final item here is the bilingual seal.
Yeah, so the bilingual seal, there was concerns about the policy, which I think I had responded to, that it's good to get the feedback, but you kind of already approved it, because if you didn't, then we wouldn't have been
Yeah,
able
I
to
was
offer
thinking-
it. Just so you know that, some of the feedback was that concerned that it wasn't rigorous enough in terms of courses. It's extraordinarily rigorous process, because the test, excuse the expression,
Yeah.
trumps everything. So those students, they all not only passed those tests, they excelled in those tests, and that tests their bilingualism. So depending on their English in this case is usually their second language.
Their native language.
Their
yeah.
native language in this case was 13 Spanish, 1 Arabic, and they have to also present and put together. And we did it in a very tight time frame in order to offer it to this graduating
Sure.
class. Our other option was to wait and just do it next year. We'd have more time to plan and do all of that. So I did push it through.
Well, I commend you for doing that. My primary concern as a student of language, and actually I have a graduate degree in linguistics for whatever that's worth, is that there is language in the document, let's call it a draft document, about you can satisfy the requirements of the seal by taking a single 4-unit course in a foreign language. And if you're not already a fluent speaker in that target language, there's no way you're going to get anywhere.
And
close
I
to
understand,
fluency.
remember that a lot of that was taken right from state requirements. So what we did is that we
Really,
matched
it's
it.
in the code.
Well, what we didn't determine that, because no, we took the state requirements, and then we checked as many boxes as we could to give students
Sure.
as many avenues, but they gotta do all of it. So they can maybe do the course and it's not enough, but they have to pass that test and then they have to present, like they have to do
Yeah.
then they have to have a
They're
portfolio.
passing those other
Yeah, so it's
tests
a
and they're
right.
already fluent in the language, and this is really targeting the
Yeah.
population. The target population is native speakers of another language, other language than English.
Yeah.
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 But-
Yeah, I mean, they can't, there's no shortcut to this, to the bilingual
Yeah.
seal. They're gonna get, because the test itself is very difficult.
Yeah, well, I'm
And
glad
yeah,
to
I
hear
mean,
that.
Roxanne and Ernest, and just really, I mean, they operationalized our dream and was there and I mean, Roxanne was with our testers till like 8 o'clock at night or something. Well, I forget. I know I left at 5:30, maybe 6:30, whatever it was. The
Yeah.
long hours and hours these students are taking these tests, and
Yeah, that's great.
they really excelled. And so they know English and the other. So it was a pretty amazing accomplishment. I was really
Yeah, no, I'm,
impressed.
we're all thrilled.
And I was also impressed that we were able to find an Arabic community member to serve on the panel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What? Who?
That was just background noise.
Oh, background noise.
Anyway,
Okay.
so it's, we're here and I recognize that, as Sandy brought it up, that the calendar process was rough, and I think it balanced our budget and is gonna allow people, including teachers, to be well compensated, and allowed us to get some teachers and I think as we're going forward and we can evaluate how the school wants to operate with a shorter school year, that's a possibility. But I am waiting for real data, which I was not able to get before, and I need
Sure.
to get it from Axiom. So I'm not gonna not keep us fiscally solvent. So
Yeah.
you can't let me do that. So I need numbers. And then if I thought about it, if we could, that will allow us to shave off a week. But the year is not, the students are coming in August 5th, which is very common. And or the next week, and then it's the end of the year, I think, that students are concerned about, that they're 3 extra weeks. So
Yeah.
however, the seniors will graduate at the end of May, and then those last couple of weeks could be service projects and all
Sure.
kinds of things. And so I think they're not understanding that and if they have travel plans, they're excused. All of that was articulated.
Sure.
So I think what would be great is just more people asking questions and reading. When that happens, it's amazing and that's okay. It's all about educating the community, and I've been available and I've responded to every single email I received. And honestly, there hasn't been that many. We're 4, and one woman highly complimented me and how hard my job must be, which I was really surprised. And I thanked her for that. So that's the nicest thing anybody said to me in a long time.
Yeah. Well,
Yep.
thank you. Wonderful.
That's it.
Thank you, Carla. So I'll entertain a motion to accept Carla's written report.
I just have one question,
Okay.
and that is with, I know we approved the dual credit, or the dual credit program, was it? The early
Bilingual
college
seal.
was approved. Do you explain to students and parents with the dual credit situation that if they don't do well that it has a significant effect on their grade point average? And I had someone called me up, wanted to talk to me, Lily's mother. You know Lily?
I do.
Lisa Powers.
I'm familiar with, and
She
so
called-
what is the question?
Well,
I don't
the
wanna-
question is,
Family name.
she felt cheated or lied to or something by Kristen, I think. And it costs they think that it costs them $14,000.
So everyone is entitled to their
in a
perspective.
scholarship.
Everyone's entitled to their perspective. Worked with that student and mother relentlessly all year. Everything's been documented. I responded to that email. And I would say that they have the right to their perspective, but I will tell you that Kristen Pyle is meticulous in the way she works with students. I mean, she really is. She talks to them, she emails them, she documents everything. She knows her stuff. She really does. So I've witnessed it, I've seen it. They've been given every possible, I mean, I can counter some things about what people that may have dropped that ball that were not us, that may have been them. But you know what? We have that is a student, a parent that had an opinion and they have the right to do that. But there was an unbelievable amount of support, including a series of email from Susan Hamlet that said, come meet with me, come meet. And I saw it and I forwarded all of those and didn't get any response because then it was dropped because Susan kept all those emails. Where are you? Come see me. Why aren't you coming in? I need to talk to you. Nothing, nothing, nothing. So we all have our perspective on what happened. And that's why we keep all of our emails.
Yeah, I do want to caution, we shouldn't be talking about an
I
individual
know.
student.
Yep, that's why.
here at
no,
the Meeting here.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm just
Yeah.
globally saying that we follow up and we offer a lot of support for those students. And yet anyone can walk away from any situation and has the right to feel differently. And
You can't make everybody happy all
no,
the time.
and happiness is overrated anyway.
Yeah, so great. All right, so thank you, John. for
I
your
wish she's no
question.
longer a student.
She's no longer a student.
No, she graduated.
You're really
But
good
I-
guys that if you're gonna have this conversation.
Yeah.
You need to go into closed session.
I totally agree with you, yeah.
So when it's brought up, I'm gonna respond and I will say from the school standpoint, my
I-
response was about a faculty member and a staff member and not, and.
Let's,
that's it.
yeah, when somebody brings up
Yep.
a named
Yep. individual,
let's remind
I
them that we have to go to
didn't
closed
even-
session.
I just.
No,
made
you
this
didn't,
up. Yeah,
no, you didn't, anyway. Great, so we were in the process of, I was in the process of asking for a motion to accept the head of school's written report for this meeting.
I'll move to accept the written report.
Okay,
Second.
so Kelly moved, Karen seconded, all in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye,
I,
and then Catherine nodded.
Oh, I said aye, but. no,
Oh, okay,
not very
good.
well. Aye.
All opposed, say nay. All right, Carol carries. The next item is concerns. Excuse me. Retaining the services of DMH Law LLC as the governing council's legal counsel for fiscal year 25. And you've all, I hope, have seen the contract went out. And there's several reasons for changing horses, as it were. This is, the timing is right. But DMH Law offers a fixed fee of $30,000 for the entire year. And for perspective, through the end of April, August through April of this current year, our legal charges with Matthews Fox were $55,000. Last year's legal charges were $31,000. Now, the prior years were much lower, 1,100, 1,500, 900. But we are,
1,000?
I'm sorry,
11,000 or?
1,100. Oh, that's what I meant to say, 1,100.
Oh, 1,100, that's all.
Yeah, they were very minimal. Now we are there is a potential risk of legal action associated with some of the legal activity this year, continuing into the next academic year. Mr. Hill would be our advocate. He would litigate on our behalf. So, and all of that for $30,000 flat fee. Okay, so it's there's an economic consideration here, and the other consideration is that Dan was for 3 years general counsel of PED, Public Education Department. So I don't know how we can find anybody other than Sam better qualified in the legal goings on.
I'm not a lawyer, but.
I know you're not a lawyer. I was.
TV.
I play one on TV, yeah.
Yeah, you've been on
The
TV.
number of
Okay.
us do.
Oh, okay. So anyway, I think he's highly qualified. I have interviewed him. We had a coffee a few weeks back. We had a good conversation. Carla has been working with him. Carla's, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think you're very happy with this.
He's very, this is not an anti like Sue versus Dan
No,
kind
it
of thing. They're
isn't.
both great and they offer different gifts, but Dan has been phenomenally generous in his time and expertise, and he's great, and he has a specialty in special education, which is an area that was particularly helpful. And I understand that he was a state legal counsel, so he has pretty impressive background.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that this business model that he employs, which is the flat, is brilliant, and I think we were lucky to have him. And I, like I said, does not translate to being
No, it
dissatisfied
doesn't.
with
Sue, I'm very happy with Sue
But
too,
it's just that
but-
it's too,
but
times have changed.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
If I may, can I kind of offer some comments on the contract?
sure.
So one, I also just want to echo the comments about Sue. I know Sue Fox personally. We're friends. I think she's a good lawyer. Yeah, I often refer people to her where my business model doesn't work for them. And the difference in kind of our approaches are, Sue is a traditional hourly lawyer where you call her when something goes wrong and she's going to bill you, the meter starts and then she's going to bill you for her time, which is, frankly, I've been in that practice before. My practice is different where it is an outside general counsel contract. So the contract defines the scope of work. It's kind of like a buffet. It's all included. And so you don't get a bill each month from me with a breakdown of, the number of emails I answered or phone calls I answered. It's really just, that flat rate kind of covers the whole amount like you would pay a general counsel, right? So if you had an internal general counsel, you'd pay them a salary. Charter schools aren't big enough to afford that. And so, that's kind of why I developed this practice of it allows me to do the general counsel work, which I really like. And it sets a flat rate for the school. So there's a defined cost that's, essentially you're never going to go above. I will say there's some areas where if you had a Title IX complaint, you might have to do an investigation and you have to hire an investigator that's separate from my contract, but you'd have to do that with an hourly attorney also. But pretty much everything is included by the scope of work, which you've seen. And so I really like this mode of practice because I get to become a partner with the school and learn what you're doing, be at your board meetings, have, in my opinion, a lot more in-depth, kind of relationship with the head administrator and really get a sense of what's going on. And from a pure business standpoint, I have an incentive then to help you avoid legal problems because the more problems you have, the more work I have to do. And that means, essentially I'm getting paid the same amount to do a lot more work. And so I sometimes call it a proactive legal services model where we're really trying to be ahead of problems and avoid them if we can. Obviously you can't always do that. But that's the goal. And so that is, why the rate is what it is. So it has to be set to kind of make it, kind of worth my while. But it's also just being very candid, more than a lot of schools would pay their legal counsel each year, particularly if you're not having a lot of issues. You experienced last year what a lot of schools experience that come to me, which is, things are kind of going and you're not really using your lawyer, and then all of a sudden something happens and now you're spending, up to that $60,000 mark where you'd have to go out for procurement, to keep working with a lawyer. And so, that is where, from a cost standpoint, there could be some savings, but I also think from a operations standpoint, it works really well. I have about 20 clients now in New Mexico, so all charter schools, and it's not the right model for everyone, but for the schools that I work with, it's a really good fit, and I think it's been very successful. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Sorry, my voice is kind of going in and out, but yeah, if there's any questions, happy to answer them. And then you all know Sam. She is now an employee of mine, so I got the good fortune to hire Sam in, I guess it was January of this year. And so she does some work supporting me, and then, but primarily, maybe unfortunately for me, she's so successful in her consulting work that she spends a lot of time on that as well. And so she, works with schools, both schools I represent and other schools. But one of the kind of benefits I think of adding her to the team for me has been it really kind of rounds out the experience level that we have. Her title is Director of Compliance and Training. So, she has a really strong skill set in those more compliance type issues that aren't necessarily legal, but having been in the sausage factory, she knows how it's made and can navigate you through that. So happy to answer questions. And last thing, I'm pretty much always available. The last couple days not as available because I've been sick, but most clients text me, email, text, phone calls, and I can circulate my information with the board. But I would encourage governing council members to reach out as well if there's any questions at any time.
Yeah. Thank you, Dan. Catherine has a question.
Yeah, hello. I'm quite new. This is my first moment. So I'm ignorant of a lot, but I ask a lot of questions. So I want to compliment you on your model. I come from a very large medical school, huge industrial complex of education. And this model is really almost a public health model of you stay upstream to do the prevention work so things don't happen that you have to clean up downstream. And that's really smart, particularly in education. And I think having a team that can identify what are sort of the pitfalls that everyone has to navigate around, and also what are the benchmarks when you need to be aware that something may be brewing. And in my experience, having a set fee assures that if you don't have some big kerfuffle that could potentially cost $60,000 and you have a nice quiet year, you then have some time to do more of that prevention work and training work and compliance work and setting it up so that you don't have those problems. So I think this is really smart. I did get a copy of it and took a look before the meeting. So I look forward to knowing you and working with you. But I'm impressed with your document.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And you are on ACES, both of you, so that we don't have any procurement issues, correct?
I am not on ACES, but I am below the $60,000
Threshold, yeah.
threshold for professional services. So the one thing your business office, and I work with Katie from Axiom with a lot of my schools, and I think she's fantastic. But one thing your business office might have to do is get bids. So which is just kind of the nature of the procurement code, but that's not a competitive procurement, and you just have to get bids. Professional services are their own category within procurement, and so which makes sense, is you're allowed to pick the best kind of fit for your entity for professional services, not just go off of cost. And I mean, this time of year, I have schools that I don't represent who call me for bids because they just need bids to fulfill the requirement. It's fairly standard.
So are we able to vote on you, to hire you tonight without having
Yes.
gone for bids? Okay,
It's just your business office will handle that. So
okay.
you're approving the expenditure, and then your business office will make sure that the procurement code's been followed for that. And because it's below the small purchase threshold, there's no competitive procurement requirement. It's just
Dan,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, this is Fred. I have a follow-on question to Catherine's. I'm not fully versed. I've tried to read and understand what took place last year in terms of the extraordinary legal expenses, but her point was that we can get ahead of these things to try to prevent or preclude them from occurring. And at some point, perhaps now is not the right time to do that, but at some point, I'd sure love to understand what took place and how we might have prevented it. What can we learn from that situation to arm ourselves in the future to operate more effectively.
I think that's fair. I will also just say, again, reiterating, I'm not criticizing Sue or the advice she gave you. You know, anytime something happens, you can do a postmortem and figure out what can be done better, and we should do
Right.
that.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you know, the saying I like to use is human organizations have human problems, and so sometimes those human problems can't be resolved outside of expensive litigation. And the good news
Yeah.
is if you have a, you know, contract with someone like me, you're kind of capped at a cost then. But hopefully we can avoid those in the future. And then also just, you know, it frees up, you know, Carla to focus more on the operations of the school
Right.
versus, you know, constantly dealing with all this legal nonsense.
Great.
So I have a
Good.
couple questions.
Karen has some questions.
Hi, Dan, this is Karen Aubrey. I was very impressed by your contracts. I noticed there are two separate contracts, both for $30,000. Is that to keep it under the 60,000?
No, one is for Dan and the other is for Sam.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
The
So
same
it,
term.
That's
we
what-
do
Yeah,
have to stay
first
under
thing.
60, so that's right. So,
Right.
but
And-
Sam's consulting work is separate. And so even though she's an employee, we do separate contracts for her work. Part of that is just for you know, being totally transparent is just accounting on our end. So it makes it easier for us to figure out, you know, who's doing what, so to speak, in terms of the money. But it is also there's separate scopes of work. And so we want that to be clear. And so I think right now, Sam can correct me, but I want to say there's like 5 or 6 schools that Sam has been doing contract work for that are also my clients. Pretty similar to your school of mostly renewals, but also just kind of general strategic planning and that sort of thing. But we just do a separate contract to keep it separated. But you are right, we can't exceed 60. So that's why, well, they're just priced at what they are. But if we wanted to go any higher, we couldn't without you having to go out for a request for proposals.
Right, so let me ask about the scope of the work. I understand, and like Catherine, I'm new on the board, so I don't have any history at all about these problems, but I understand there's a Title IX case.
No, it's
And there's,
closed,
and there's a special ed case,
closed.
and so those are both resolved in the last
Babe.
month.
Yep.
Yeah, I think without getting into too deep into what could be attorney-client privilege, I think you've had some what I would characterize as personnel disputes that have gone through various administrative avenues for appeal or complaint, and those have all been resolved so far. There is still a chance that, you know, so those administrative remedies have been exhausted, but the employees could still seek legal recourse outside of that in terms of litigation. So
Okay, so
I
there's,
wouldn't say you're like totally out of the woods on those yet, but the administrative part is done.
so would you, if in fact there was an appeal of the administrative decision or some recourse to the courts, would your scope of work then permit you to represent the school for the $30,000?
Yes, it's included in the scope of work. And some of that also would, in practice, depending on what lawsuits are filed, sometimes you'll have insurance coverage, which is great if you do. It depends on the claim and what's actually pled. But if you have insurance coverage, typically then I would work, you know, as a general counsel with the, you know, so the insurance company will appoint counsel then. And so I would work with them, uh, you know, kind of in that same spirit of like keeping your school folks focused on the school stuff. And I don't want to say running interference, but you know, essentially I'm managing the litigation for you in that point. But if it's not covered, then you know, I would litigate it, and I am experienced litigator also.
So I just want to clarify though, you know, I've been on the board now, this is my second meeting, right?
Right.
I didn't know the case had been resolved.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
I mean, I
Yeah,
don't
so
know.
I don't want to get into what would be a attorney-client privilege conversation in a public meeting, But when we say resolved, I don't think, I don't want to imply that there was some sort of agreement.
No, there's
The
not a separate.
administrative process has been followed and exhausted, I think is, I can say without getting into the details.
And I think it's important to note that this is not like it's something that originated this year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's fundamentally a personnel matter. But let's, perhaps you and Dan would,
Sure.
like to have a cup of coffee at some point.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, thank you, Dan. Are there any other questions or?
So are we approving both contracts or just?
No, just, yeah, we don't need to vote on, the reason we're voting on Dan's contract is that Dan is the board's attorney. Sam has been hired by the head of school. She reports and is supervised by the head of school. That's why we were just voting on Dan's contract. So Dan, I want to make sure we're correct here. The agenda states that we're deciding on retaining you specifically as our legal counsel. Can we vote on that without there being the going through the bidding process?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
I don't know, I'm not familiar with all of your accounting practices, but typically schools have a threshold for contracts where the board has to approve them. And so typically it's like $10,000 or $20,000. So you might want to
20,000 for us. It's 20,000.
is also might need to be approved by the board also. So not necessarily approving the choice of the contractor or something, but you have to approve the actual contract because it's above the school's small purchase threshold.
That was my impression. I think it wouldn't hurt to approve both of them, but.
Well, we are approving POs, preliminary
Yeah,
POs for
yeah.
both.
Yeah, that's what I think.
And
Yeah.
so the question was, really, the reason I put this on here is that we wanted to interview you for the job and we wanted to hire you during this board meeting. Not signing the contract, I guess I would sign it, Carla would sign it, but that would happen afterwards if the board approves entering into a contract with you as our legal counsel. Can we take that vote? That's distinct from approving the 30,000.
Yes, you can vote on the contract.
Okay, all right, then, I will entertain a motion to approve this contract with Dan Hill as our legal counsel for FY25.
I so move.
Very good. So we have a motion from Catherine. We have a second.
I'll second.
All right, and a second from Kelly. Carol, do we need a roll call on this, or can we just do a aye nay vote?
I think we can just do a vote,
Okay,
aye, nay vote.
very good. All right, all in favor of approving this contract, please, of the motion to approve the contract, please say aye.
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 All right. Karen, yeah, and okay, I think that, okay, any nays? None. So unanimous? Carol?
Yes, thank you.
Okay,
Thanks, everyone, and I look forward to getting to know you better and working with you. And like I said, reach out at any time if you have any questions for me.
great. Thank you so much, Dan. Get well. So next item on the agenda, Sam, is you're gonna kind of give us a quick, I don't want to say quick because it's now 20 minutes to 7. Report on the charter renewal process and how we can help you with that. The board. Help you.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm Sam. I work for Dan. And so in terms of, I guess I'll just start by saying the board, your role is going to come later, essentially. We're going to need you to approve the renewal application during your August meeting. Because we're submitting September 1, so August 13th, we really need a quorum.
Okay,
Because we're gonna need to approve that renewal application. We're also going to need board representation during the site visit. we'll need to have a focus group. It will be a little more, the questioning will be a little more targeted. I'm not gonna say it's unfriendly, it's just a little more exacting and fact-finding than it is during annual monitoring.
Okay.
And so we don't have any of those dates right now, but based on submission of September 1, I would suspect that site visit is end of September, at the very latest, early October.
So it follows the submission.
It's gonna follow, I would say, probably 2 to 3 weeks after.
Okay.
You should know when you should have, if you don't have the site visit, you're gonna know when it is. And then there will be an echoing back and forth, like from that site visit. The CSD will essentially fact check, triangulate, as they like to say, all of the information that we provide in our renewal application. And from there, their site visit is where they triangulate. They'll ask the board very specific questions. They will then write a preliminary analysis. That's something that Carla and I will review. The board will review it as well. And then anything that we believe needs to be adjusted, we have an opportunity to comment. And so they'll give us 2 weeks to collect our thoughts on things that we'd like to see differently. We also may just approve it. We may just say it's fine as it is. From there, we'll get a final analysis. And we'll also receive a letter from the Public Education Commission with their own information that they're gonna want us to speak to during the renewal hearing. Because you're submitting early, your renewal hearing will probably be sometime in November. Board representation is great. We're gonna definitely need our board chair there. That's gonna be essential. Sorry.
No trips to Mexico.
No trips to Mexico this year. And then from there, once we go through the renewal hearing, it's really gonna be more about like a committee, or, maybe talking about it during your board retreat, the things that we're gonna wanna look at and change during your contract negotiations. You're going to need to consider a performance framework option. They've changed the performance framework. There's now 3 options that you can choose. It used to just be like, here's your metrics, and this is what you need to hit. And that was tied to the statewide accountability data. Now you can have that option. You can have option 2, which is still tied to statewide accountability data, but then you're also allowed to provide interim assessment. And since Carla has, implemented map testing in your school, I think it's going to be a great opportunity for you, especially because you're a high school, 9 through 12. I think you're only being you have SAT and science. And so it's really 11th grade.
On the PSA, yeah, we were only evaluating a very small percentage of it.
It's a really small pool. And so map data is going to be a really excellent way to capture the proficiency and growth of like a wider range of students.
All grade levels.
Mm-hmm. And so, you need to think about your performance framework options, and these are things that the board will want to think about. There's also parts of the material terms of your contract that you may want to consider changing. The school hasn't hit its mission specific goal in several years. And so that's something you're going to probably want to look at as a team with Carla. To talk about what that could possibly look like. That's something Carla will come up with and then present to you for approval. I'm trying to think. We've talked about possible changes to like your educational program. Even if you don't change anything,
Well, the mission goals was,
the mission goal is the big
the
one.
mission goal was the big one.
That's the big one. Even if you keep your educational program exactly as it is, they are now asking schools to go in, item by item and decide what the type of evidence you wish to present or you want the CSD to look at while they're on campus. So that's something we're going to need to consider. I would say, because we don't have any dates for the actual application process, I'm really now just projecting what contract negotiations could look like. I would think that they would start sometime in February.
Okay, so it's
Um,
after the hearing.
It's after the hearing. Typically, I think they start in I would assume February. It could be earlier. They have 22 schools renewing this year. So
yeah.
it's a really huge pool of renewal applicants. And so they're gonna need to be extremely efficient in how they conduct that negotiation process. Your board will need to approve all of the updated documents. I would believe sometime in May, because they go into effect June 30, 2025. And the board doesn't need to be present through all of this, but it is going to be helpful to like maybe make it a standing agenda item to just get an update on how the
Okay.
negotiation process is going.
Sure.
Carla will be spearheading that process.
So you will be with us all year.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will be with you through it all.
Because the charter contract is an important piece of it as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, and that's gonna be a lot of the strategic planning. Actually, APS, like in their renewal application, there's a strategic planning component, and it's all of the documents and all of the planning and preparation, including like accountability metrics and your mission specific goals. And if you have changes to your ed program, that's all done in the application, but they call it strategic planning. And so we do that as a state authorized school after the submission, but it's really something we've been talking about for quite some time.
Hopefully we can leverage some of the work we did this
Oh,
year.
100%.
Yeah.
Sam, how often do you have to do this contract renewal thing?
Every 5 years. So we submit the last year of the contract term. So technically you submit every 4 so that you can go through the negotiation process so that by June 30, you're done. And that the next day, July 1 will be, that's, 5 years, if that makes sense. Yes.
So I have a lot to learn.
Oh, sure.
Is this comparable to an accreditation process?
In
is
a lot of
this-
ways it is.
It sounds like accreditation.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
It is.
So how deep into the weeds do they want to get? I mean, having gone through this in a academic environment at the graduate level, they get right down into coursework. They don't go that far.
They don't go that deep. I mean, it depends on the state of your school. Your school is a spotlight school and
What
has
does
that.
that mean?
So that is the ESSA designation.
The what designation?
Every student, what is it? Every student succeeds, what is it? In Education Act or whatever, I don't know. I don't remember.
Okay,
ESSA.
so
It's like
it's
the federal.
The statute.
ESSA is what replaced No Child Left Behind.
Thank
Oh,
you. It's
okay.
it's what took over.
But it's not, what the terminology is different in different places.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
What
that's
does it mean?
another-
So
What does it mean? The spotlight?
it's
It's your designation based on your statewide accountability data.
so it's just looking at,
Is that top tier?
it is
Yes,
top
It is
tier.
the
Top tier.
top tier.
We were a school of excellence and then they
Right,
decided that we
well,
were,
and then they realized that in the designation, you cannot give an overall designation of excellence. You
so
can
there are
only
no
give-
more schools of excellence.
You can
So-
only give a designation of excellence for a subgroup.
Oh,
And so there is a website that I'm happy to direct you all to. It's called New Mexico Vistas.
And
and
it's on
it's
our
where-
website.
And that's also on the school's website. And that's where you can go and you can look at all of the metrics in terms of proficiency, growth metrics, graduation rates for 4, 5, and 6-year cohorts. You can look at college and career readiness. And so that is tied to like a federal level designation.
So that's the determination of becoming a spotlight school.
Yes.
Okay, I'm
Mhm.
catching up.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah.
Is that what was formerly called exemplary? national exemplary
I don't,
designation?
I don't think
I don't think so.
so. I don't think so. Dan, do you know? I don't think I've heard of that.
I mean, these are state,
Yeah, I don't think.
State
I don't
designation?
think it's-
they're state designations.
I think
I
I think the former process for New Mexico was the grading system. So it was an A through F system.
Exactly. And so school report cards in other states
Yeah, the
have
school
grades.
report card.
And then there's, yeah, so that's why I mean, that's why Spotlight isn't something that translates to another state.
No.
Except-
Okay.
It sounds good.
Sounds really
It
good.
sounds good.
In the newspaper a little while ago, and they didn't include TMP.
I thought they did.
No, I saw that. It wasn't included.
It
They
wasn't
gave
included.
they listed spotlight schools and they didn't list, was it just Santa Fe district?
They had like
It was
six
Santa
or
Fe
s-
Public School.
They have
Yeah, they're not gonna,
Except ours.
Yeah,
We're not a.
but it was just for Santa Fe Public Schools
Yeah, we're not a
district,
Santa-
correct? Oh,
They
yeah.
had ATC, they had,
did they?
Yeah,
uh,
that's because we're state authorized.
ATC is not, is a
Nope.
district.
They're part of the district.
Ah, There's a distinction.
I think they had this one out here.
The Indian
No.
Monte del Sol?
Yeah.
I,
Monte de Sol was on the list.
Was it really? Well, they're state authorized.
I know.
We want to reprint.
You know how I feel about all this stuff.
I mean,
Oh,
that should be
great.
part of it.
So just
How do you fly
to
the
answer
boat?
your question, yes, we are gonna have to go pretty in depth. We're gonna have to speak to all sorts of components for all years of your school's contract terms in terms of data and equity practices and trends in your governing council and your financials. We'll have to speak to some coursework,
I mean, that.
but it's really, I
the
mean,
visit-
I don't
There was a,
envision.
we had a site visit, a
Mhm.
different kind of a site visit. That's an annual monitoring, and I think what you said, I think it's they'll probably visit some classrooms, they'll talk to people.
Yes, this visit
So-
is a little bit different because they're
Yeah.
really not trying to glean new information.
No,
They're trying to fact check what we've,
but they'll look at things. and
yes,
I mean, I've been through charter renewal processes in other states and I'm anticipating it might be somewhat similar.
yes,
The renewal hearing often is like a show,
it
Yeah.
is a,
which
yes.
that's
But-
where we have an opportunity
our students,
to present.
well, our students do.
Yeah, that's what I
Your
do.
students will have.
Like the
I think,
School of the
10
Arts, I
minutes
think they had
for-
them sing.
Yeah.
which- I mean, I'm sorry.
And we'll talk about the renewal hearing, you know,
So
it's
we'll have-
broken
we
down to
probably
a
won't
very
sing,
specific.
We'll do something
A
else.
very specific agenda with, you know, time limits.
And you'll coach us ahead of time.
I will absolutely.
That's
coach
why
you through
Sam is
all of
here,
it.
because
That's right. Yeah.
it's a performance.
It is it is performative.
Very good.
It's super performative.
And a lot of it is just things that we've been keeping up with. We have data.
Mhm.
We have a whole year of map
Yes.
data.
And
Good.
we will be given, like I said, we will be provided a letter from the Public Education Commission. That is your authorizer,
Mhm.
and they will let us know all of the parts and pieces they want us to speak to.
Sure.
In addition to our dog and pony show that we will put on.
Can you give us a written summary of what you presented?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
happy
she has
to
a
hear it. I have a
PowerPoint.
presentation.
Oh.
I'm happy to
You
send it
asked
to
for
you.
one, yeah, you got it. If you
Yeah,
want.
okay, there we go. There we
You
go.
bet.
You can-
And would you, would it be appropriate for you to come back at every subsequent board meeting until we get through all of this? I mean, do you need to report to us every month?
Well, there's,
I
I mean,
mean, I'm
I
happy to.
I also,
Carla could do it.
and I update us with the charter renewal.
Sure, but if you need me to, I mean, until September, like, until we get the application in, like, I'm happy to give an update, that's fine, whatever you.
Well, that
whatever
might
you
be
want.
helpful, I think, because, you know,
I,
Well,
Carla,
we
whatever
want to
you
understand
want.
what's going on and understand our role.
Yeah, I think this is the role, just asking questions, be aware and know that there are important dates that you're
Yeah.
there. And,
Just board presence is gonna be, you know, in that hearing, it's really important to
Yeah.
have representation.
and again, it's looking back, like, at some point, and I don't know exactly how it happened, there were mission goals established.
Mhm.
Right,
That we would measure numbers of students attending college classes. And that was an opportunity to think as a board, does that really matter? Does
Yeah.
it matter how many students show up in college classes? And in my opinion, no.
Yeah.
What matters is readiness, which is a different metric.
Mhm.
So that's why we're changing the mission goal. But because the renewal process is looking at what we did,
Mhm.
they're gonna look at how many students attended college classes.
Mhm.
That data is not very impressive.
Yeah.
And I'll speak to that. In
Sure.
fact,
Sure.
we have that data, it's not of importance because
Well, and it's not reliable data. I
it's
mean,
not,
don't
because you can
know
put a
if
lot of
they-
students in classes and they don't do
Exactly,
very
yeah,
well, which
or
is,
they don't go.
they don't go. And
Mhm.
Sure.
so we're looking at how do we prepare students for college and career?
Mhm.
And we do, and we are, and Davis is very excited about that switch. And they are one of our funders, and they said that they would show up
Oh, good.
that they would be there at the renewal, and so we can speak to that. So,
Sure.
because we'll have to a little bit of explaining about maybe that we've learned from that, and that's not something we do again. So that's a role the board could, is to kind of look and say, is this really what we think is what we should be doing? And so you're hearing me, for example, say, I don't buy that, and we're now gonna look at readiness metrics, and then you could say as a board, well, that doesn't make any sense, and you
Yes,
can
it
push back
does.
on your head of school, which would be fine.
Sure.
And so the final thing I'll say in terms of like board support is just, there are indicators associated to the board. Are you completing training hours?
Yes.
Do you have a full board? Are you, timely in your notifications? We know that in the past that has not always been the case. And so just fulfilling those
Yes.
duties are going to be that, and like representation at the hearing is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be great.
Well, terrific. Any questions? Anybody?
And I'll send this to you.
Oh,
to
thank
the
you.
board.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we don't have to vote on the report. So the next item on the agenda is, Chris, are you there? And Lisa?
I'm here.
Did we lose Chris? Chris is there. He just needs to unmute his mic.
Yeah, I'm here, Steve.
So we got a couple of, so a quick report from you guys, and we got to vote on a couple of POs and so forth. Can you take it away, sir?
Okay, oh, sure. Yeah, let me,
Do you want me to, or do you want me
Lisa,
to?
Either
yeah,
way.
Lisa, if you would like to, I mean, usually, or if you want me to, I can.
Either way is fine. I have it written, but if you want, I jotted notes, but if you want to do it, go ahead. Either way is fine with me, Chris.
Are you gonna I'm just curious.
The whole financial thing, no,
Okay.
we have to go through it fairly quickly, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right,
3 minutes.
Steve,
you want-
can you allow screen sharing, please?
huh?
Yeah, let me just pull up the screen share.
We need to,
I was
Yeah.
gonna just hit the high points just because of time.
yeah, that's fine.
Yep.
Yeah, so let me, so basically the AP and payroll disbursement summary. We had $522,232 of total expenditures. It was an increase of, there was an increase from last month because there are 3 payrolls and plus the spring semester stipends were included. The AP and payroll disbursements detail, we had $379,416 in payroll and benefits. It also included vacation payout plus $142,817 in disbursements. Some of the larger disbursements, there were 3 disbursements to the Santa Fe Community College in the amount of approximately $40,000 for lease payment, food services, and the spring tuition dual credit payment. And then we had legal, about approximately $16,000 in legal services to Matthews Fox, and then DMH Law, and then $21,375 to the DDSK group for Title IX investigation. And then we had our standing, ACES charges for special ed services, as well as the K-12 business services, which totaled approximately, I'm just doing this quickly, approximately $21,000 for those. There were no bars this month. We have one PO that was over $20,000 that was issued. It was just, yeah.
Oh, sorry, Lisa, just hold it 1 minute. The disbursements is a item the board needs to vote on.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So
sorry.
I move that we accept the disbursements.
Second.
All in favor? Oh wait, we need to roll call this, right, Carol?
Yes, and I'm sorry, who was the second, please?
Karen.
Karen, thank you. So we have a motion and a second to approve the disbursements that Lisa just reviewed in high level. Steve, how do you vote?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Lisa?
Aye.
Dorianis?
She's not present.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, of course. Dayanara?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Fred? Oops, we may have lost Fred. And Catherine?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously.
And the final thing is to review and recommend approval or disapproval of POs over $20,000. We have one PO for CDW-G in the amount of $54,786.75 for HP Chromebooks. There are 150 HP Chromebooks plus the Chrome operating system.
And these are for use by the students.
Correct.
Yeah. You ready for a motion?
Yes.
Okay, I move that we approve that PO.
I second it.
All, okay, roll call.
Yeah, hold on just a moment, please. So we have a motion to approve one PO as was just presented, and a second. Steve, how do you vote?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Lisa?
Aye.
Dayanira?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
I believe Fred is left, and Catherine.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. And I don't believe we approved the one bar.
There was no bar,
No
was there?
bars.
Oh, no bars. I'm sorry. Okay. That's easy.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Lisa.
We have two additional POs that are pending contract signatures. So I think what we are doing here is giving proactive approval for these POs. One is for, or Lisa, you want to present them? I didn't mean to cut in, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Yeah, we had as you mentioned, 2 fiscal year 25 POs that are pending approval on contract signatures. They're both of them are with DMH Law LLC, which we talked about before. The first is they're both firm fixed fee contracts in the amount of $30,000 plus New Mexico gross receipts tax for Sam Gonzalez's services as our educational consultant for the renewal, contract renewal. And then the second one is also in the amount of $30,000 plus New Mexico gross receipts tax for Daniel Hill to serve as our general counsel.
I
Do we have a
move,
motion?
yeah,
go
I
ahead.
move that we approve these two. Yeah,
I second it.
All right. So we have a motion and a second to approve these two pending POs related to the two service contracts that Lisa just outlined. Steve, how do you vote?
aye. Frog in my throat.
Kelly,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
Leonida,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
and Catherine.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously.
Is is Kimberly on the call?
She was early.
Can you double check? We're just checking to see who's,
I don't think she's, I don't think
oh, Kimberly is here.
she's here.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So Kimberly, do you have any, at this point, any updates on the budget for, and I think there's a typo here, it should be FY25.
No, she can speak.
Oh, are you not able to?
She has laryngitis.
Oh, that's right, that's right. Okay, okay. Well, then I suggest that we just defer that, table that.
Motion to table.
Motion to table from Karen, I'll second that. All in favor of tabling the FY25 budget report until next meeting? Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Aye, it carries unanimously. The next item is a report of the secretary, and I incorporated the report in my report because secretary is not in attendance. And just as a reminder, that was, please take a look at the board handbook draft that she's presenting on this coming Friday at the conference, and send her your feedback. Next item, report of the audit committee. There's no report. Student representative has already reported. Roxanne, are you still there?
Yes.
All right, would you like to give the faculty and staff report, please?
Yes, I can. It's very brief. I'm gonna I shared it with Carol and she will attach it for you, provide it to you. I'm sorry it was late getting there, Carol. Basically, the staff is grateful and proud of our students for their graduation, and we're very pleased with how the graduation went. Following graduation, the final 2 days of school, we had a faculty-led series of staff meetings and professional development opportunities to address hopes that we have for the coming year in terms of procedures and policies, and we reached clarity on that. Tina Morris took extensive notes on that, and we have a plan in place for July 29th when we get back. We are very grateful to the board and to those who made it possible for Tina Morris to come back full-time next year. We really felt strongly that that would be an important part of assuring our charter renewal, especially with the required efforts for the administration and Carla in getting that happening to keep the school day running smoothly. And we thank Carla for her leadership and work in helping us through this year. We are all just resting and recovering and getting ready for the coming school year and looking forward to those challenges.
Any questions?
Well, I should mention Roxanne was a key player in our Panama trip.
That's right, that's right.
And her communication was amazing. She texted us every day. She sent photos. She kept receipts. She kept diligent, meticulous financial records. She navigated her own heat challenges and still was present for students and very enthusiastic. And I think she did the zip line and
Oh, did you?
And it was an amazing, successful trip. And, you know, I'm a big proponent of international and domestic, well, travel of any kind as part of public education. So I thank you, Roxanne, and Sonia Sanchez was, of course, the other parent, chaperone. And, so just since you didn't mention it, I just wanted to mention it myself.
Thank you, Carla. Yeah, it was all wonderful. I would definitely go on another international trip. I will never zip line again.
Once was enough.
Very good, very good. Well, yeah,
I'd just
thank you.
like to make a comment, if Roxanne, if you could, and Carla, if you guys, uh, when you think about how far the school has come in the last year, there was a lot of change, and I'm very proud of the work that all of you do, and am grateful for because you guys make a huge difference in their lives. So thank you.
Well, it's an honor and a pleasure, and that was very, very clear at our closing meeting that that's how we all feel, that we're really, really committed to making the school a terrific place and a gift for our state and the future of our state through our young people that we have the privilege of educating. And thank you for your comments, Lisa.
Terrific. So you have submitted a written report, Roxanne. So I move that we accept the written report.
Second.
And a second from Catherine. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Okay, it carries unanimously. Carol,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. And then, so parent representative, we don't have a parent representative, so there will be no report. Is there anybody who wants to make a public comment? You get 2 minutes. Speak up, or we will move to the next agenda item. Anybody? I don't see anybody. All right. Thank you, public. And are there any additional items from board members that you want to bring up? Okay. Well, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second?
All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody want to say nay if you want to keep meeting? All right, I think we have a unanimous motion to vote to adjourn. So thank you all. Oh,
I do
yes,
have a question.
Sure.
Before we sign off, the public meetings law requires this to be open to anyone who wishes to attend. Is that true?
that is correct.
Yes.
I see. And do we have members of the public, parents or others who are ever in attendance?
Well, I
Yes.
see James, the faculty member, James Parthauser is on the call. He's faculty and he's attending, and yes, we do have, can have a smattering of people from time to time.
One time.
Okay.
10 people?
One time we had like 21 people. We had to, yeah.
Okay. I was just curious about whether or not it was ever attended by members of the public.
Yeah, it is indeed. And a new regulation that goes into force July 1, we have to, because we are meeting hybrid, we have to record the meeting. So this meeting was recorded as a practice. And starting July and moving forward, our meetings will be recorded in the cloud, in the Zoom cloud, and put on our website for the public as part of the documentation of the board meetings.
And right now, do you have a record of the public members who were at the meeting?
Carol, do you capture that?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
The public that's in attendance, do you capture?
Yes. What I do, if Steve doesn't tell me there's someone there in the conference room, I keep track of the participants on Zoom. And And that's one way that we can gather public names.
Right, very good. SH, who is SH?
SH, I saw that name earlier, just one moment. Shane Huffman.
Okay,
I assume that is a member of the public.
I think so, yes. Okay,
Great. Thank you.
oh, thank you, Fred. Thank you, everybody. I think we're done. We can end this meeting and then save the recording and see you all next.
Good night.
Oh, you want
Good
to, Carol? Good night.
Signing off.